the solar coaster. Come along for the ride, yeah. The solar coaster's rolling, it feels so right. Hop on the solar coaster. Come along for the ride.
Aloha, my name's Anna Covert, and this is the Solar Coaster, the wild ride through the solar industry told by the people who are living it every day. In the hot seat with me today is Jeff Szur of Altitude Water. So, not directly in the solar space, but a big proponent of clean energy and clean water, and a close partner with all things solar. And can't wait to kick this off. Jeff, tell us, when did the sun first shine on your solar path?
Well, we create water from the air, but a lot of the places that we do that, we need to have solar in order to create the water. So we need the electricity, as you well know, and the water energy nexus is so closely tied together. Where even in California, 20% of the electricity is used just to move water around the state. So the tie-in and the advancements of solar over the last decade have really helped our industry, because when we're trying to create water in remote areas that are in need, we obviously need that solar source. So solar is very important, and as you know, the Teslas aren't about the cars, right? It's about the battery and the storage, and so the storage and the batteries that have come over the years have really made our technology a lot more accessible to those in need. So the sun, I had always, when we started in this business, always was cheering on the solar and alternate energy industry, because it's really necessary in order for us to be able to meet our customers' needs, no matter where they are in the world. And as you know, there's always sun, there's always sun shining, and being able to implement that. When we first met, we were in Maui for the wildfires, and created the first disaster relief trailer. But now all of our disaster relief trailers come with solar. So that is so important in our growth. So the sun shines on us brightly in solar.
It does, and yeah, those disaster relief mobile units are so powerful, and I think one of the things that really hit home for me is just thinking about disasters in general, right? And that it's such a media people care right when it happens, but then it quickly as soon as it's not on the news, people quickly stop donating. They don't really care, and then there's these locations like Maui who are left for years, months without a source of water or power. And so it's really exciting that you're creating these opportunities for, what these machines can last for 30 years. What do you think is the life cycle of one of these mobile facilities?
Usually about 15 to 20 years. But like you were saying, I mean, to me, my heart breaks, because our disaster relief trailer that has been helping in the homeless shelters run by nonprofits, they're still there and they're still full. I mean, they haven't rebuilt anything, and that to me is just crazy. I mean, I'm well pleased that our trailer is providing life-giving water to those in the shelters, because as you know, in Maui, water is as it is in Oahu and through all the islands. But the fact that it's still operating in a homeless shelter because people aren't able to rebuild their houses, and when you and I talked about it, I was hoping that this would be an opportunity to really be the showcase for how solar and water can be used to rebuild, because they're not giving water rights and getting the electrical. And if you could build sustainable houses, now all of a sudden you're ahead of the game. And but like you said, it happens very quickly. The money comes in, and then it's on to the next disaster. Or people forget. People people can't believe when I tell them no, they're still not permitting houses on Maui. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think another thing that like really stands up to me that I didn't realize until we had first met is that the water tests that we do, in America and here in Hawaii, they hadn't really been updated in 30 years or whatever it's been. Never. And they've never been updated. And here we are in these disaster areas and I think about California too with all those fires and how many electric vehicles burned up in completion. And now this lithium ion is up in the sky and it's going to come down and pollute the water. And like, what is the long term effect of that? I mean, we saw it here in the Redlands in Oahu with that,
Absolutely.
jet fuel leakage and how many people were sick. But how long does it take for lithium to go and seep into the water? And what do we think about that?
It, it It happens instantly. I mean, when I was down there, I obviously went to all of the FEMA and all the meetings, and the people were complaining that they weren't allowed to go to their house after the burn because of the amount of lithium that was in the air. And so myself knowing that the EPA has now for lithium done 4 5 year programs of looking at it to get testing data, and it's still not on their testing results. As you said, they haven't put a new chemical on the EPA process for testing water in 20 30 years. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. So I raised my hand and I said, okay, so when the lithium cleared the air, you let the people back in. What about the water testing? And they say, oh, we don't test for lithium. I'm like, well, hold on. It's in the air, and it's not only in the air when it burns those ashes, and in the rain, it gets into the water table almost immediately. So now you're sitting there with people going back in because the air is safe, but what just happened to your aquifer? And again, it's almost like if you don't know what's in there, it's okay, but no, it's not. Now all of a sudden your body becomes the filter. So
You know what I mean?
your body.
And it's so interesting you say that because I did some work with a water company years ago in Hawaii, and what I found was so interesting is on Oahu, they said that it took 8 years for the rain to go through all of the volcanic rock and then underneath the island, and then on the Big Island it was about 10 years, and so there's some filtration there. But and that makes me think, okay, well, so some of the impact we may not even know if that's the case. If it's going to be take that long to go through the mountain, okay, so we're testing right now. Well, that water we made 10 years ago, right?
Right.
But how what will actually filter out, and it's got to be an ongoing.
Well, nature's incredible. Nature does it right. But if you're asking nature to take lithium and take the PFAS chemicals out because it goes through rocks, it's not going to happen.
No.
And again, it comes down to kicking the can down the road, and what are the health costs? What are all the things that are involved by having that contaminated water? So and especially, think about it. It's the kids. We
Right.
used to have a society that cared so much for kids, but they're the ones that will be drinking this for the next 10, 15 years. For older people, okay, it may affect you 5, 10 years down the road, but you're talking about starting kids, drinking this lithium
Right.
or
And the
all of these.
organs. I mean, all the damage. It's like the the Montessori in the in the land too. I mean, there's also is going to be people are watering their food with it, and it's in the ground and trees, and I mean all of it.
And we haven't even talked about the microplastics and what that's going to happen because of the proliferation of plastic. And that's why the disaster relief trailer is so important is, the standard operating procedure for a disaster is truck all these bottles of water into a facility. And then you have to store it, and then you have to get it out to the people. And you're now getting the water there, but you're now creating another ecological nightmare for that beautiful island, right? Now, what are you going to do with all the plastics? I mean, if you look at the numbers,
Recycle here.
Oh, I know. How crazy is that?
It's like a fake. And when people learn that, they're like, "Well, why are we putting the plastic in the blue container?" It's like, well, because it's for trash management. And for most of it, they can't. I mean, it's too expensive to ship it, and we don't have a facility here to really do anything with it. But I mean, this is all over the world, right? These problems are occurring.
Right. So now the plastic's going to denigrate into tiny. Plastic doesn't go away; it just gets smaller and smaller. Now all of a sudden, I mean, the latest studies are showing that you're drinking, over a credit card worth of plastic into your system. That
Every
absolutely is
day,
crazy. Yeah. No, every month.
everyone. Oh wow.
Depending on how much water you drink. But now we're seeing, microplastics in the brain, microplastic in their reproductive organs. We're seeing birth rates go down, right? Well, that has a lot to do with it as well. And not only that, but you're talking about us being a pharmaceutical country now, right? There's a pill for that. Talk about all the birth control. 90% of that estrogen that's in the birth control pill is going to be urinated out and into your water cycle. And the hormones, again, you don't see, when you get a water test, you don't see this list of hormones on there. They don't test for it. But you have fish that don't know whether they're male or female because of all the estrogen that's in the water. So, those are huge issues. I say it, and I love what you do. In the solar industry, because let's face it, Mother Nature does things right. Okay. Mother Nature does, through the water cycle, purify its own water, because through evaporation, when water goes from a liquid form to a gas form, all those contaminants are left behind. And people say, well, how's that possible? And I'm like, okay, you live on Hawaii. You're in the battle station there, and you have a beautiful picture of the ocean. Where does 90% of your evaporation comes from? It comes from the ocean. When was the last time you had a salt rainstorm? Never. Okay, so the salt and everything like that is left behind. Now it's in a gas form, and our machines convert it from a gas form humidity to a liquid form. And again, none of those contaminants will adhere to that. So you're drinking the purest water. You're drinking it the way Mother Nature does. That's how Mother Nature.
Question about minerals. Okay, so but one of the things I hear a lot of, say, okay, then there's not minerals in it. How many minerals? What is the real deal? Like, do we need these minerals? Do we not get minerals from other things? Like, do we need it in water?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have always been of the thought process that uh, you drink water to hydrate, you have a well-balanced meal, and take supplements to put minerals in. Now there is some studies, and you can see, I can have studies on both sides of this. So it's a little bit difficult. So um they say with distilled water, it will leach minerals out of your body, because the water's so pure. When it goes out, it's gonna take up minerals in your body. So what we do is, again, to raise the alkalinity, and you have two choices. You can ionize the water, which is like what a Kagan does, or you can mineralize it. And again, everything that we do mirrors Mother Nature. So, we put minerals back in, calcium and magnesium, raise the pH to about an 8.1. So I wouldn't suggest you look for your mineral content in water, but we put it in just so people, and if they didn't want the minerals in it, then it's basically take the filter off that puts minerals in, and you can put another carbon block filter on there, and drink the still water. I know many people that love the still water and drink it. But again, that's a personal choice. As I said, I've seen studies on both sides. So
Yeah.
where we just want to meet what the customer's needs are, and we want to do it in the most effective and safe way. So adding minerals to our water, and again, how do we keep the water pure? Our big thing is using ozone, which is a natural gas that Mother Nature makes. Is one of the most powerful water purifiers. But the interesting thing about ozone is it reverts back to oxygen, right? Ozone's O3. what makes it such a powerful water purifier is the third oxygen molecule is what's known as a radical. And it detaches and oxidizes any viruses, bacteria, anything that's not supposed to be in the water. And it's like 1,900 times more powerful of a water purifier than chlorine, and it's natural. But the nice thing is it reverts to oxygen. So you're not only drinking the purest water from the air that's alkaline, but you're also drinking the most highly oxygenated water. So, people talk about being dehydrated. It's not about the amount of water you drink. It's the amount of water that your cells are going to absorb, right? You want to, this is all on a cellular level. You want to make sure that your cells are hydrated. So the fact that you have the most highly oxygenated water just on the basis of osmosis, it's going to cross that cell membrane you're going to absorb the water into your cells because there's a low concentration of oxygen in the cells, a high concentration in the water, and of course, through the basis of osmosis, it's going to go across the cell membrane much easier than any other water. So the one thing that we claim and we don't need a study for it because osmosis says it is your cells are going to absorb our water. So it's going to get to the mitochondria. It's going to make sure that cell on a cellular level that it's hydrated and being able to function at peak efficiency.
Yeah, it makes me think about also, the secret of water, right? And just that since there's no memory, like the water's going to hold memory, right? Of it's got infinite memory of all things in the whole universe, right?
Does, yeah.
Yes, it does. And then so it makes sense that when it's stripped of like all these other inherent toxicities that also come with memory, right? When it comes into your body, that it's like a pure absorption, and then it's like, it makes sense that it would just be like stuck right at.
I love that you brought it up, and I love how educated you are on all different aspects that relate to environment in our body. Dr. Emoto did some amazing studies before he passed away on how water takes this memory, right? And that's the nice thing about our water is so you have this groundwater that has been in a liquid form, and it's picking up through lead, the old lead pipes, through all of this other stuff. We're basically working with a clean slate because when it goes into a liquid form, and we're actually now doing things with putting frequency into our water.
Oh, wow.
So, oh yeah, so on the disaster relief trailer, we have frequency. We partnered with a company, Good Vibrations Music Company, that did the frequency pool at Hippocrates, and had done it, and they were actually part of Dr. Emoto's tribe. And I mean, we've done it here where you can put water on something and then freeze the water, and actually, you can see it. And it was amazing to me because I was just like, no, this is crazy.
Saw that. Like it was like, code in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Instead of the old covert code, it's
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking about there's a scientist, what's her name, but she's got a book about all these different waters. She took pictures of water and dreams. So she was able to the petri dish. She wanted to know if the memory of the water would be influenced by her consciousness, right? So second she woke up, she took her petri dish and she put it in the freezer, and she could see pictures that had been collected.
absolutely. She's from New Zealand, and I
That's
actually
the one.
saw it.
That's the one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, how she came with water. She was in a horrible accident, and she drank this water, and she didn't know she had all this glass still in like
Funny.
oh, I mean it is amazing. Again, we think we know so much, but nature and how our body was created, and it's incredible. So now when you can put I'll give you a funny story. So we had people over, and we actually put a sleep frequency. We could, because let's face it, everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. It goes out. We don't destroy energy. And you could put a sleep, and everyone's going, why am I feeling tired? And we're like, this is what we did. And they were
Yeah.
like, wow, it really is. And think about how incredible water is, and being in this industry for 17 years, thought I was so smart after 10 years. I knew everything, but it's amazing how much my mind has been expanded. And again, with the frequency. So, I mean,
That was so cool. I've actually just been getting into HemiSync. I have, Monroe Institute, Robert Monroe. I've read all of his books, Bob, and he's got HemiSync, which is he was the first one to do the bilateral, hemo synchronization of the spheres of your brain. That I've been sleeping, or doing like lucid dreaming and whatnot with different frequencies, and it's like amazing and how they feel like when you have like a 333 frequency, and it can feel almost off, right? But it's because you've never been experienced to it before. And there are like 1,000 hermetic frequencies and levels of those, right? And how much awareness and changes in awareness that we can get from the frequencies. So I think it's really fascinating that you can combine it with water too.
right. We think that if we can't hear it, it doesn't happen. But do a dog whistle. All right, we might not be able to hear that, but a dog can hear it, right? So our bodies cannot see and understand everything that's going around us. And again, think about that. We have the I'm sorry about that. We have the same amount of water as when this earth was formed. So, how does that happen?
Fascinating.
And how do we and here we are polluting that with forever chemicals, with pharmaceuticals, with everything under the sun, and we think that we can filter it out, and that's absolutely not the case. And again, having the ability to use energy from this earth and not creating anything else, it just makes sense. But again, you're dealing with an industry where bottled water is the number one beverage sold in the world right now. You're taking on behemoths of Coke, Pepsi, and Nestle. So, and again, in the disaster relief industry, as you well know, those people have been working in that industry forever. So they have great contracts with water where they're getting a nice piece of the action. Now, all of a sudden, you say, hey, we can bring a trailer in that's getting its electricity from the sun, the water from the air, and you don't have to ship all these bottles. You don't have to have all that waste that, especially in Hawaii, that how you're going to get rid of it. All you need to do is put it in a landfill and let it just,
Well, that's what happens to it. Just blows over. Yeah.
yep, and then it goes into our fish, and then it goes into us. So it's just
Question. So, here in Hawaii, but I'm originally from Aspen, Colorado, and it's very dry up there. Now, in places that are not close to big land masses of water, do you have to use more power to suck the water out of the air? Does it work the same everywhere?
so we can only take the water out that's in the air. We
Right.
again, like I said, it's going to use the same power. But it's more power isn't going to make it more efficient in sucking the water out of the air. It's going to use the same amount of power. We're just going to create less water.
So depending on how high you are, the elevation, that's a different amount you can suck out of the air.
Right, and we have charts based upon temperature and humidity, because again, water is so standard. You know what the dew point is. You know at what temperature and dew point it's going to condense at. You know by the temperature and relative humidity how much water is in a cubic feet of air. I mean, it's not going to change. Water is going to do that. So Arizona and stuff like that, it's just not the right technology for that. And so since we've been talking, we also have done some ozone purification systems, standalone boxes. So where we're at in Cameroon, so we're in a village in Cameroon where there's no electricity. There's no water sources. They had a well drilled, but of course, you're talking with bad sanitation, it was absolutely undrinkable. So what we ended up doing was doing a rainwater capture system, and using the ozone purification box to keep that pure. And then we were able to go in and take the water test and then gauge our ozone purification system so we could keep that water pure as well. And at last year, we actually finally completed, after 10 years of research and development, we made Amy Grant and Vince Gill's farm in Franklin, Tennessee, totally water independent. They had sulfur water, so they couldn't drink anything. So they were using our T12s, for their personal drinking use. And when she decided to donate the farm for a camp, she says, "Oh, I need a gallon of water per person." So we started with our atmospheric water generators. And again, the hills of Tennessee are a lot different than Florida and stuff like that. So we were able to use new technologies to make our machines more effective in making water at 60 degrees and lower humidity levels. But then again, we added rainwater capture, and then we rolled our sleeves up, and my team is incredible. We were able to take all the sulfur out of the water as well. So now she has the well water for showering and things of that nature, and then the atmospheric water for drinking. And because again, when we shower, our skin's our largest organ, right? So we're going to take in all the chemicals and stuff like that through our skin.
So, does temperature play any role in how much you can get out of the air? I mean, if it's cold, if the air's cold, does it impact it differently than if it's warm air?
It does, because so dew point is a relation to temperature and humidity. And if you know what the temperature is and what the humidity level is, you can absolutely know what temperature a gas form of water will condense into a liquid form, right? So I'm in my office right now, and with the cold water and there's condensation on the glass, right? So it's making water because the dew point is high. It's probably 75 degrees in here and humid, and the water is probably 42 degrees. So again, we know, and that's where the benefit is of what we have to make our coil at to make sure that the water is going to condense. So temperature and humidity, the main number for how efficient and effective our technology will be is what is the dew point. And then so if dew point's at freezing, that's where we're not going to be effective, because everything's going to freeze. It's going to go into the third state of water, which is solid, right? Water's either in liquid, gas, or solid state. So now there is technologies, and we use that as well with the frost cycles, where you freeze it and then you defrost it and get the water. But that's a little more energy intensive. But with the solar application, when you've already put the capital expenditure into the solar, it would make it efficient to be able to do that.
Wow. So what are you most excited about in terms of the industry? Is it becoming more affordable now? I mean, more adoption, people are asking for these types of, they're familiar with what you're doing, and what do you see as the industry trends?
Well, number one, with wonderful people like you who educate people as to these new technologies, and that is important. But what has really gotten me excited is people are starting to understand that there are these other technologies out there. We're working right now with Compassion International on another water hub in Togo, Africa, where we just got approval from the Vice President's office in Ecuador. And we partnered with a company called Pranaka, who's one of the largest food processing and delivery in Ecuador. But they are so community centered that they are donating T12s to schools. So we're getting that program going. But the biggest program, that really with myself would be the disaster relief trailer. So we're working with Othermost Ministries and Samaritan's Purse China. We don't have anything done yet, but they are. To them, it makes sense. I actually took the trailer up and did a demo for them. We also were on the ground a day after Asheville with Hurricane Helene, right? I mean, we talk about nature, and now you look and there's a hurricane in the mountains of North Carolina. I mean, who would ever, in that concept, think that that was ever possible? Uh, and that's where our technology. So it happened right at the end of summer. And as the weather started changing, I called up and said, you're not making as much water as you need, and they said, Jeff, the trailer with the electricity, and not only that, but with your ozone purification, we can take water from the tap that is not and purify it with your ozone purification. And the fact that so many roads are washed away and so many people were isolated, that we were able to take solar generators and charge them off of the trailer and get them to someone who needs oxygen and they need the electricity to run that. So it actually was up there for about 4 months. And it just all of those technologies like the ozone purification that is also on our disaster relief trailer, so we can make water from the air, or we can purify contaminated sources. Again, we need to know how contaminated they are, because we may need to put a reverse osmosis system and then the ozone purification system. But we would know that pretty immediately. So seeing that happen and seeing that, to me, you look at driving down the highway, you see this billboard, right? And people are advertising on it. When we can explain to companies and say, if you have your name in on a disaster relief trailer, and this trailer goes in and helps your constituents, where do you I mean, what billboard in the world gives water, electricity, and communication through Starlink to the people? So I think that that's a much better advertising of, and you're helping your community. So I think when we start, because let's face it, the world is going crazy right now, and the most important thing that they're attacking is community and divisiveness. If we can come together and really help the people, when 9/11 happened, everyone came together. Now it seems like everyone's fighting, but if you can really start to show that companies and people care about their community, throw politics out the window. Let's help people.
I think you're right. I mean, another thing it makes me think about is that, we talked a little bit before about some different state incentives. For example, some, like I think it's Raleigh, where they have, the e-bike incentives, where now they're trying to, the state is actually, or the utility, they're actually giving people like $1,800 to get an e-bike. And it is
Exactly.
like, why is there not, like that should be part of, really doing good for the community, is let's get people these machines, right? They need machines. Everyone needs a machine.
And it's going to help their municipal systems run more efficiently and effectively. But one of the things that we are seeing, and we're in the process of that right now, is because of the Maha movement, is health insurance, because of the purity of the water, and because they realize if you're going to sit here and drink all this plastic, they're going to have to pay for, be part of paying. So why not make sure that someone who you're insuring is getting the best water? So we're working right now on some health credits and stuff like that, where we can get some assistance in people buying it. And then again, we're capital markets, it's so hard to find a leasing company for a $4,000 machine, but I think we're breaking through that, so that you can, and we're also doing trying to do a rental program. We're trying to work with some investors on $190 a month, which is what, if you're buying Mountain Valley spring water that's delivered in a glass bottle, now you're your own water maker. You're your own municipal source. You know where your water's coming from, and your machine can help your community. Like in my house, I have my machine outside, and I tell my people, because I live alone, come and use the water. And it really is. I mean, those are the things that we have to look at. What's in your heart, no matter what.
That's beautiful. I think, well, I mean, it's very affordable. I mean, we have here like many Huni water or other office delivery programs. And that's again, we think about the environmental impact. We have to have now someone, there's got to be a car that or a truck that's going to transport this water. That's going to have to, bring it in and load it. I mean, having a machine and having a monthly subscription, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I just wrote an article as well in Disaster Relief Journal, and I compared the cost. I mean, like you're saying, look at the carbon emissions and the things that are happening by having to deliver that water, and you have to deliver it all the time. Whereas you have the machine, you have none of that. Okay, and so we're in Hawaii. We're probably with your high electrical costs. It's say you were going in and you didn't have solar, it would be at about 33, 20, 22 to 33 cents a gallon we're making water at. But what are you paying for water bottle delivery? And again, that's coming from groundwater, and that's still has all those contaminants in it. So, why wouldn't you want to be your own water source, and you know where your water's coming from, and you know it's pure?
That's it. That's the ticket. So how can people learn more about altitude water?
So altitude water, you can go to our website. It's altdwater.com. That's altdwater.com. We are on all of the social media platforms. We have a wonderful YouTube channel where you can actually see like the transformation of the Maka village. And interesting, we just got results from the nonprofit. That village averaged 6 water related deaths a year
Wow.
since. And now we've been there a year, a little over a year. We turned on the taps October 1st last year. There has been 0 water related deaths, but even more important is there has been 0 hospital visits for water related sicknesses.
Wow.
So now all of a sudden, you're not having it, and again, think about them having to bring their kids to this hospital. So that's something that we're just so proud of. But if you go to that YouTube channel, just look up Altitude Water, you will actually see when we started, when we had to meet with the king, and the whole process of working with wonderful nonprofits, getting this off the ground. One of the things that we think is so important is effective charity, right? Because anyone can give someone something, but there's no value in that to the person. You look at what happened in Flint, Michigan, and Share donates $1 million worth of bottled water. Well, that's gone in 2 weeks, and yet now you have all of these bottles. So we also, with the Water Hub, had classrooms. So now the women who were spending all that time going down to the river, we're now teaching them beading, all this stuff, so now they can have an income coming into the family, because the generational curse that we're trying to solve is their kids or their workforce on their farms. There's no farming like we know here. These big conglomerates, they've got to grow it, they've got to cut it down, and they got to bring it to market. And we're trying to say, listen, your kids doing that, they'll get no education. You're never going to break this curse. So now if we can have the women that all of a sudden have the time, can help out in the field, get a skill, get other income coming into the household, now we can educate the kids and break that generational curse. So that's why I said, look at our YouTube channel. You'll also see Amy Grant there talking about the decade long of transforming her farm. So a lot of education, a lot of discussion on how our machines work. Facebook, Instagram, X, we're on all of those, and we're pretty active. And the one thing I will say is even if what we talked about inspired you, it's something as simple as clicking like or follow, because that gets us in the algorithm. I mean, you don't have to buy a machine, but at least support what we're doing and what we're trying to change and what we're trying to do. And it's, how many likes do you give on your friend on the dinner that they're eating? They're at a restaurant, they take a picture. How about liking a company that is doing transformational things in people's lives? All you got to do is like it, and that would help us. So, we will appreciate everyone who do that.
I love the story about how just this water and having that, then they don't now have to walk miles, all day. They're spending walking miles and carrying and that makes you think about the solar too. When we find that in places like Africa where there's no light, the second they get lights on the street, it is a transformation because now women can go to school at night, they can work at night because it's so dangerous otherwise in neighborhoods where there is no light. And it's like that these basic things that we just take for granted, are transformative of just what you're talking about, education and breaking the curse. And I think,
Well, light versus darkness, right?
yeah,
Again, that's energy and spiritual. If you have light, you're not going to have all these people doing hidden things. It's so much easier to do it in the darkness, right? So you're exactly right. I mean, the transformation, and again, that solar was so important. And I loved our partners, African Solar, and how we were able to really transform. So it's not just water, but it's electricity, it's education. Those are the things that are going to make a difference over the long run. And we got the community; they helped build their water hub. So are they going to take care of it? Yes, they put their own sweat into building this.
yeah.
Okay, and I love the nonprofit Jean-Philippe Scalcha that has been operating there for 25 years. They have all the programs. And they got we all decided we're going to get the community involved in this because we want them to look at this and say, this is ours. We helped make that. Okay, we'll bring the technologies in, but we want you to be our partners and put some work into this. Okay, we don't want you sitting back and saying, great, these people are giving it. No, when if you give them something for nothing, it's human nature to value it.
Yeah,
Nothing,
exactly.
right?
Same thing with like the curriculum. They realize that if you don't pay for it, you don't learn it because it's only by participating or that it actually has value.
Absolutely. And before we go, I just want to congratulate you on your second book and seeing all the things that you're doing and, taking the time to educate people. I mean, I watch your podcast and you have such a wide variety of people that really will make a change in people's lives. And so, we can all just focus on our business, right? But I love your heart that you go out and try and educate people as well. I mean, even something as simple as, the internet and how you market and stuff like that, because there's so many people out there that take advantage because, business people are looking at their business and they think they can hire someone and they don't realize that there are a lot better ways. So your book, your first book on that was just incredible, and I love your second book on solar coasters. It's just awesome what you're doing and how you're not only running your businesses but taking the time out of your day to educate people. So I just for myself, I wanted to thank you for what you do and obviously bringing me on as well.
Thank you, Jeff. That means a lot to me from someone I really respect like yourself. And I'm looking forward to doing some more work together. And thanks so much for being here. You're one of my first guests on my last podcast, and that has over, I think, 20,000 views. So it was very popular.
Oh, watching it grow has been awesome. Yeah, I think I was like the second or fifth.
And now we're almost up to 50,000 subscribers on the Covert Code, and then the solar coaster with just a couple weeks, so we're almost over at 7,000 already. So it's growing fast, and it's people like you who are making it an attraction. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I'm going to get out there and tell everyone what an awesome job you do because you do, and that takes effort to show other people what can happen when your heart's in the right place. So I just so pleased to see your growth, and I look at where the podcast went, and I know where this one's going to go as well. So Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our listeners who make sure to like this content, share with your friends, so I can continue to get more great guests like Jeff. And your aloha and means so much to me. And I'll see you next week in the Pixels. Cheers.
Hop on the solar coaster, come along for the ride, yeah. Where sunshine meets stories and bright futures collide. We're sparking up ideas with laughter and light.